Hello, fellow diamond painting addicts, and welcome back to Diamond Painting Anonymous. I'm Daphne, and I'm here today to share with you an exciting project. This is probably not new to some of you, but it is new to me, and I thought I would share it with you in case any of you were interested in how to do it yourself. So that is how to make your own cover papers or release papers. So a little background, I have been seeing all over Instagram for probably the last year or so using cute release papers with little printed designs on them. When release papers first, or at least when I first discovered them, and still now you can buy them, they're just these plain white release papers, right? Nothing fancy, just silicone coated release papers so you can stick them to your diamond painting and use them instead of the cover paper. So over the past year or so, I've been seeing them pop up. Well, first people were putting stickers all over them and, you know, making stickers that match the theme of their kit or whatever. So if you were working on like a butterfly kit, you could put butterfly stickers on it, etc., etc. Then I started seeing printed release papers, which was these release papers, but they had a design printed on them, and people were using those. And I thought, well, that's really interesting. I wonder if I could do that because I make my own stickers. My husband and I have a cutting machine. We do vinyl decals and other things. And at the time I thought, oh, I wonder if I could do that. And I did some Googling, and I found on Amazon some silicone paper that says it was printable. And I thought, well, I should try that. I wasn't sure how it would work because I have an inkjet printer, and I was like, well, I wonder if the ink will just smear off because it's non-stick, right? And so I put it in my Amazon cart and then promptly moved on to other projects and forgot all about it. So then I started seeing them on Instagram again, and it got me thinking, and I thought, you know, I would really like to be able to make my own. I've bought some, but I didn't really use them that much, and I really would like to make them more specific to the kits that I'm working on. A lot of the patterns that I saw available for sale were kind of generic, and, you know, I get that licensing and all of that, but I thought, well, if I could make them myself, I could kind of do whatever I wanted because I'm just using them for myself at home, right? As I saw these pictures again on Instagram, I thought, you know, again, there's got to be a way to do this. Now that I finished some other projects, I had some time. And so I did some Googling, and I came across a video by Joan Diamond Paints where she had the same idea I did. She found the same silicone paper and she tested it out. Except that Joan has a laser printer. And as I said, mine is inkjet. So she mentions in the video that she wasn't sure that it would work with inkjet, and I had the same thought. However, then she mentioned in the video that she was going to try it using some sticker paper that she had left over from making stickers from something. And I suddenly thought, oh my gosh, mind blown. I have a ton of sticker paper. I make stickers all the time to send out my random acts of kindness, and I have a ton of paper, backing paper left over. So what you get with sticker paper is essentially one-sided silicone paper. So one side is silicone so that the sticker paper that you print on doesn't stick to it, but then the other side is maybe printable. So I hurried into my craft/office area, grabbed some sticker paper, and set about trying it out. Now, like I said, I have an inkjet printer, not a laser printer, and so I didn't know if it would work because my thought process had been, even back when I was contemplating it before, that with my inkjet, the ink wouldn't adhere because the paper is, you know, siliconed, and it would all just smear off. But with the sticker paper, the backing paper is only slick on one side, and so I thought, well, let me try it and see if it works. So first I just loaded my plain, and it's just plain white sticker paper, that 8.5 by 11, that I loaded into my regular tray on my printer, and I just printed it like I do any other kind of document. And it worked. So what I ended up with was this, and it's pretty good. Now, there's going to be an edge because obviously your printer can't print all the way to the edge of the paper, but it worked, and the ink didn't smear. It stayed on there, and it was okay. However, it wasn't as crisp as I thought it should be, and I wasn't sure if it was quite as vibrant. And so I wanted to try making my printer print on the photo settings. And after trying it various different ways and much grumbling and cursing and trying to figure it out and Googling on the internet, what I discovered was that newer printers, which mine is because we just bought it last year, are basically set up in both hardware and software to only print from a certain tray when they print photos. And that's to make it a more consistent quality when you're printing photos. Obviously, you want your photos printed at a much better quality and crispness than you do like just a plain document that you're printing, like a school paper or something. I did some Googling, like I said, and for my particular printer, you have to print from the rear tray if you want it to print as a photo. And my particular printer also has two different kinds of ink. There's regular black ink for documents, and then there is a photo black ink for photos. After much cursing and swearing and Googling, like I said, I discovered that basically I needed to move my printer. Where my printer was, the rear tray, which is where it has to print from for photos, was not accessible to me. It was up too high and it was against the wall too closely, so we couldn't access the rear tray. So I ended up having my husband help me to move the printer and everything so that I could get access to it, and we tried it again, loading the same kind of paper in the rear tray, and ta-da! It also worked. Now, I don't know how well it shows up on camera, but in real life, I can see the differences in the ink, especially the greens here. The greens here on the photo printed one are much more vibrant and less faded, and everything is just a lot crisper on the whole. So it worked. And also with the photo, none of the ink smeared off. So my first success, yes, using the back of my sticker paper would work. I moved my printer, got it all printed out to where I could use the photo tray, the rear tray to print photos, and I was good to go. So I can print from either tray, but the prints from the photo tray look better. So after doing it with this kind of very colorful rainbow heart one, I decided to test out some more. So I found another pattern, and I printed this one from just the regular document tray again. And you can see it's a little faded. It's not as vibrant as I wanted it to be. Now, there's a bit more margin here. I didn't adjust the size of this image, but because this was just a test. But it wasn't as vibrant as I wanted it to be. But it worked. Again, the ink didn't smear, and it was okay. Not great, but okay. So I thought, well, let me try it from the photo tray. So I tried it from the photo tray, and here you can see the photo printing is much better. The colors are way less faded. So here you can see it's almost like a pale yellow, and here it's more like a beige color. The black is much more vibrant in the photo print. And also you can see in the photo print, the heart has two different shades of red. It is very difficult to see that in this one that is very washed out. So definitely I think photo printing is the way to go. So I'm happy that I moved my printer and figured it out. So now that I've kind of got it figured out what I want to do, I needed some more patterns. So I got these, the heart and this one, this heart, off of Pixabay. You can find all kinds of seamless patterns online. You can make your own if you have software like Photoshop or GIMP or something like that. You can do, all different kinds of things with it. I had it working, and I did some test cuts. Now I will say you can see the printing on the back side. Again, I don't know how well that translates on camera, but in real life I can see the hearts and everything. I can't necessarily tell the colors, but I can see the hearts and definitely the black ink from the back side, but it definitely works. So once it's just the backing paper. So this side is the silicones part. Let me grab a canvas here. So, you can cut it down to whatever size you want, and then you just put it on there and it peels right off. So it worked. It worked to print on the back of my sticker paper, and it worked to get it printing. Well, it worked in either tray, but it worked better if I got it to print from the photo. So I had it working, and just using my printer, I thought, well, let me go test some of these. I'm going to go put in just some drawing software that I had. So like if you have Office or something like that, or even just if you use a Windows computer using print so that you can print. I just put mine in a drawing file, like I said, and I just found some patterns that I had, and I put them on here, 4 to a page, because I wanted to see, these were approximately the size of release papers, and I wanted to see what would happen. And then I cut them out, and I had my release papers. And you can see, you know, you could probably play around with them a bit, but it's not as easy to like change the size and things doing it this way. And like for instance on this one, I wanted these to be a little bit smaller. And for this one, I wanted the print to be a bit smaller as well. It's a little hard to manipulate them when it's something like this. Again, these are all patterns that I found on Pixabay. But I tried a whole bunch of different ones and I cut them out and I ended up with all these really cute release papers, like I said. But then it occurred to me that rather than just putting them on, you know, a document and printing them that way from my computer, which you absolutely can do, but because we have the cutting machine and I have the cutting machine software, one of the things that the machine lets you do, the software lets you do, is to tile images and things and make patterns. You can put in patterns that are ready made. So for instance, if you have something that's a seamless pattern already, you can put that in, or you can use just specific images. So like if I just had one heart, I could put it in there and tile it and make it look like a pattern. So I decided to go into my cutting machine software and see what I could come up with. So let's head over to the computer now and I'll show you how it works. Okay guys, I wanted to show you how I make my release papers. So I have a silhouette cutting machine and this is the software that you can get. I have the business edition, which you pay for, but you can get a free version of this or, you know, any other cutting machine. You can also make your patterns in Photoshop, in GIMP, in, you know, any program like that, or you can just go out and find wallpapers and print them. So what I do, I've already loaded these into a library so that I can do a pattern. And I have made a box here that is basically the printable area for my printer. And then I can come over here to where my fill panel is, and there's an option to use a fill pattern. And then anything that I have loaded in my pattern library will show up here. And as long as I have this area selected, then I can pick any of these things and it will fill them with a pattern. Some are going to be easier than others to use because of the way that they look. You can also make things repeat, and I'm going to be showing you that in a minute. But you can find on Pixabay and elsewhere things that are already made in like these repeating patterns so that you can use them and turn them into release papers. And basically I'm just going to print it and then I can cut it down. Now, for instance, this one, if I use this Halloween one or this autumn one as is, it's going to be very large. And when I cut it down, because I'm basically going to be cutting these papers in thirds or in half for release papers, then I'm not going to have very much of a pattern. So what I can do, and the reason that I do it in my silhouette software, is because I can change the scale. So instead of having it at 100%, I can bump it down to 50. And then suddenly I've got much more interesting things going on. Now, if it's not a seamless pattern, you can see right here, there's a bit of a weird overlap where it doesn't quite line up. You can change that if you want, or you just make sure that you find, you know, a pattern that's seamless. So for instance, on this one, it looks kind of generic here because I've got it at 50%. If I bump it back up to 100%, you can see it's actually little hearts. So I can play with them around that way. Now, not only can I use fill patterns like that, I can use some patterns that I've found for other things. For example, I could use this kind of quatrefoil pattern, or I can use any of these patterns. I really like the kind of retro vibe of this pattern. And again, it's at 100%. It would probably be okay to use it this way. But if I really wanted to make it even more interesting, I could bump it down to that 50% again. And then I'm going to have even more of a design when I print it off. You can find patterns that are basically a transparent background. So again, this one is at 50%. Let me bump it back up to that 100. You can see it's just all these various flowers and everything that are being filled in. And that will save you on ink because then it's just going to be printing these flowers versus printing a background color like it would be doing with something else. For example, if I use these butterflies, it's going to print this green color that is the background as well as everything else. And again, same thing, if I want to scale the pattern so that I can make it even more, maybe I want it even more than that. That looks fun. So I've scaled this pattern down to 25%. I can make something fun. Or what I can do, let me bump this back up to 100. What I can do in my Silhouette software is I can also take an image. So I've got this cute little flamingo, and I found all of these patterns on Pixabay. So if you guys want to go there, there's lots of great places that you can go to find free patterns, free images and whatnot. If I was going to be using these for commercial purposes, I might go to a different spot and actually purchase, clip art and things, patterns, backgrounds, wallpapers, etc. But just for my purposes to show you guys. And, if I'm making them on my own or you make them on your own, you can do what you want with them. So here I've got this really cute little flamingo, but I don't want just one sheet of a flamingo. So I could reduce this down to 50%. And now I've got 3 flamingos. You can do what they call pan the pattern. And basically I can move my pattern around so that I've got 2 full flamingos on. So I would have 1 on each of my release papers if I just cut it in half. Or if I want even more than that, I can scroll down. Let me try 10% and see what 10% looks like. There we go. Now I've got this cute little pattern and I can do what I want with it. Now, the other thing that you can do in Silhouette, I can flip-flop it. I can rotate the pattern so that it is a different direction. I can also change the angle of a pattern. So if I wanted it to print at an angle or something like that. So I have lots of options with my software here that maybe you wouldn't have other places. But you can still find all kinds of things to do with it so that you can make it what you want. You might also want to keep in mind for like this flamingo pattern, it's going to be a lot of pink. So if you have a pattern that is going to, be a lot of one color, then maybe that's something that you want to take into consideration as well. So the other thing that I can do is, I found this cute little ladybug, and again, it's too big. So I'm going to scale it down to 10%. That seems a little much, so let me do 20. And then if I want to angle it, like I said, you can rotate the angle and you can, make the paper look like what you want. If I wanted to use my logo, for instance, let me change the angle back here just so straight up. So if I wanted to make some paper where my logo was on it, I could do that. Let me pan this pattern back a little bit so I could get it. So there, that looks a little bit better. And then if I wanted to angle it again, I could. I could make it even smaller. So there's just a bunch of little ones and it just looks like a lot of wallpaper. So there's a ton of different things that you could do with, all of the different designs. You can find something like this and make it yourself. That's probably a little too big for what we want. Let me get it back down to 10%. Maybe that's where I want it. Yeah, 10% is good for this one. Or, you can go out and just find, like I said, you can find these already made into wallpaper patterns that you can print out and just use as is. So let me print one of these out. Well, let me print several of these out and I will show you what it looks like. So once you have a pattern that you like, you can print it out and use it as a release paper like I did with the butterflies. And you can use the pattern, you can find whatever images you want. Like I said, if you're doing this for personal use, you don't have to worry about licensing and copyright and all that. So you literally could take maybe the image of whatever kit you're working on and either make that the background of each release paper, or you could, tile it as an image, however you wanted to do it. Take pieces of it, whatever you can think of, you can do. Now, this is so exciting for me because I already make stickers for other things, and so I have all of this sticker paper backing that I end up just throwing away. For me, it goes in the recycling bin. So exciting for me in that I get to use both sides of the paper. I can use the sticker side to print the stickers that I need, and then I can use the backing to make some cute release papers. Now, there are some pros and cons to doing it this way. The pros for me, it's fairly inexpensive for me. I'm already buying the sticker paper, so like I said, the backing is just kind of waste that instead of throwing away or recycling, I'm now getting to reuse, truly recycle, because I'm getting to use it again. Don't forget, there also could be costs for the ink. Like I said, I'm already printing stuff. I happen to have a printer that has it's not an ink cartridge. You actually pour in liquid ink, so I have to refill it less often. The name of that escapes me at the moment, but whatever. But like I said, this is exciting for me because now I'm getting to reuse something that I would normally throw away. So that lowers the cost for me. Now, if you're going to be printing stuff like this, it's going to use more ink because obviously it's printing this whole background. But if you use other designs where, you know, it's kind of transparent, or if you get a transparent background, so it's literally just printing, you know, the little characters here, then you're wasting much less ink. Another pro is that you can cut it to whatever size works for you. So if you want to cut it to, you know, a regular kind of 4x6 size, then you can do that. But if you want to cut it to something smaller because you're working on a big, you know, confetti heavy kit or something like that, you can cut it to whatever size you want. A few of the cons, it can get expensive, you know, depending on what paper you use, because the paper is probably going to be the most expensive part. Again, that and the ink. People might not like them as much because they are a little less opaque than regular release papers. On this release paper, if I put my hand underneath it, you can't really see anything through it. The ones that are printed on are probably not as bad, but like for instance on this one, they're just much easier to see through. They're a little more transparent, I think, than regular release papers. But that's because the traditional ones that you would buy, just the plain white ones, are silicone on both sides, whereas these are only silicone on one side. You're also going to waste a bit of paper because, like I said, printers can't print all the way to the edge of the paper, so you're going to have these little margins where you're going to just have to trim it off. You could leave it on there, I guess, if you wanted to each your own. I trim mine off because I just think it looks better to have the paper without any white edges all the way around. And so that got me thinking about, well, what do the numbers stack up like? So I did a little bit of a cost analysis because I typically buy the sticker paper, and I'll put links down below for both the sticker paper that I use as well as the plain silicone paper. The silicone paper is less expensive because it's just silicone paper coated on one side. The sticker paper is a little more expensive because people are buying it because it's sticker paper, and I buy the removable sticker paper, so that makes it even more expensive. So for me, if I buy 250 sheets of sticker paper, it's around $79, and that means it costs 31 cents a sheet, plus whatever the cost of the ink is. I didn't actually figure in the cost of the ink because there's too many variables. It depends on what kind of printer you have, what kind of ink you use, you know, how much ink it's used versus whatever. So I didn't factor that in, just the cost of the paper. So 31 cents a sheet plus whatever the cost of the ink is, and then I figured an 8x11 sheet. I cut off a 1/2 inch to allow for the margins that are on each side of the paper. So that leaves me 8x11 sheet of paper, which means I get 88 square inches to make release papers out of. For the silicone paper, again, it's less expensive. You can get 250 sheets for $25, and it's larger. It's 8.5 by 14 legal size versus the regular 8.5 by 11 copy paper size that I get. So that's only 10 cents a sheet for the silicone paper, 10 cents a page for the silicone paper versus 31 cents a page for the sticker paper. However, again, you have to add in the cost of ink, and 8, again, I took off a 1/2 inch because it doesn't print all the way to the edge. 8 times 14 is 112 square inches. You get 24 more square inches roughly with the silicone paper than you would the sticker paper. So if you figure that you're going to cut your sticker paper to 4 by 5.5 inches roughly, Again, you can cut them larger or smaller depending on what you want, but that's what I was using to figure it. So using my figures, that means I get 4 papers a sheet using my sticker paper, which means it costs me 7 cents per 1 sheet of release paper. So if I sold these in packages of 10, it costs me 70 cents to make these, roughly. That's for the paper. Again, you include the cost of ink, so maybe $1 roughly to make a package of 10 of these. For the silicone paper, because it's larger, you get 5 papers per sheet, and since it's cheaper, it's only 2 cents per one of these instead of 7. And at 10 cents or 10 sheets per package, it's only 20 cents per package to make these. Again, you add in the cost of the ink, so maybe 50 cents to make these. Now again, the silicone paper is less expensive because the sticker paper has another side that you can use for other things. But it's an easy way to make really custom, release paper, cover papers that you can use with whatever diamond painting you happen to be using. And I actually went in and I just kind of played around with some of them. I have like stickers that I've made for diamond painting that I send out in my random acts of kindness. One of them is called this little professional diamond painter sticker, and I was able to just tile it like you see and manipulate it a bit in my software and then print it out, and now I have cute little professional diamond painter cover sheets, cover papers, release papers, whatever you want to call them, that I can use on my projects. A big thank you to Joan Diamond Paints. She tried this out. She's the one who mentioned the sticker paper. I had already meant to try the release paper or the silicone paper. She's already done that and proven that it works, so I didn't feel like I needed to do that again, but I wanted to show you because I have an inkjet that it actually does work. And I got these are roughly, a little over 5, so 5¼ inches by 4 inches, a little less than 4 inches. So you can get them, to be roughly the same size. They're a little bit smaller when you make them yourself, but you're making them yourself. An inexpensive way to customize your cover papers for your diamond paintings, whether you have an inkjet printer or a laser printer. For me, again, this is such a win. I've wanted to do this for a while and just hadn't gotten around to it. And now that I know that I can do this, especially using my cutting machine software just to make it easier to kind of make seamless patterns and stuff, sky is the limit for me. So I'm going to be trying this on some of my other projects. Maybe you'll see them in future videos. That's it for me today, guys. Thanks so much for sticking around till the end of the video. Before you leave, don't forget to do all the things. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. That helps me out a lot. Hit that subscribe button. That helps me out even more. And hit that bell notification icon so that you can be informed of future uploads. And as always, guys, thanks so much for watching.